Hi friends, Prepared Suburbanite here. We wanted to share with you Nana's No-Knead homemade artisan bread. We originally got the basic start on this recipe from Mrs. Wrangler Star, and we have over time, the last 3 years or so, improved on that, we think, at least for our taste. But we have got an incredible recipe. It's very easy, very quick, and an awful lot of fun to make. So stick around and we'll show you Nana's No-Knead bread.
Now we're going to prepare the bread itself from start with the ingredients. So I generally start with getting the liquid that I'm going to add to the flour and other ingredients started because it needs to get warmed. So I'll start with a half a cup of milk, and you can vary this recipe. I know people say that you have to be exact when you're baking, but I have never found that to be true. So I take a half a cup of milk, about a tablespoon of olive oil or vegetable oil, and then enough water, and this is my mix, enough water to bring that level of fluid up to 1.5 cups. And I might add a little bit more. So now we have a cup and a half of fluid that we're going to put in the microwave for 50 seconds on high. Your microwave may vary, but you only want the temperature of the fluid to be between 90 and 100 degrees. If it's too hot, it's going to kill the yeast, but it has to be warm enough to activate the yeast. So I'm going to put this in the microwave for 50 seconds. And then I'll mix all the dry ingredients in this bowl. So we start with the flour, and you use 3 cups of flour. This is a half cup scoop, so it'll take me 6, but so there we have the 3 cups of flour. Then we need a teaspoon of salt, I always add a little bit extra, a teaspoon of sugar, and a teaspoon of active dry yeast. And I always add a little extra of that too. It doesn't hurt. Mrs. Wrangler Star's bread only calls for 1/4 of a teaspoon of yeast. And it rises just as well, so I'm not sure what difference that makes. Then if you're going to add other ingredients, you want to add those now too. I'm using some shredded parmesan, and I just generally half a cup or thereabouts. I'm just using what's left in that little bit of jar. And then you mix these ingredients, just mix them so that the yeast is well spread through the rest of the ingredients. Mix it like that, and then you're going to add your liquids, which are just nice and warm. It's not hot. We add that, Then just mix this enough to moisten all of the flour and other ingredients. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get done, because it doesn't take very long. It's going to look scraggly, but you just want to make sure you get the flour all kind of moistened. See, it's not really sticky at all, just the tiniest bit. So basically, that's what your dough is going to look like when you get it mixed. It's just scraggly. Then we cover this bowl with saran wrap. And we set it aside in a place out of the way for 12, a minimum of 12 hours. But I do mine, I usually make it one day and then roll it out and bake it the next day. So we have removed the bread from where it has been resting overnight to rise. I'll remove the plastic wrap and show you what it looks like after it has risen. Can you see that? Then we'll prepare our table with a dusting of flour. And I usually use plenty so it doesn't stick, but my flour is a little bit lumpy. Then you remove the mix from the bowl. Put a little flour on your fingers so it doesn't stick too bad. I just go around the edges and then roll it out onto the flour. Catch all the little extras. And then I just take the bread like this and just roll it over itself, and then basically just roll it around on the table I don't knead it much at all. Just roll it on the flour until the sides are coated and not sticky. So once the bread dough has been rolled in the flour and not sticky anymore, we line another bowl with a cotton towel, and mine is big enough that I can just roll over the bread after I put it in here rather than put another one on top, but you can do it either way. Then lift your bread, turn it into the bowl, and cover with another towel or with the same towel, and then set it aside to rise for another 2 hours or so. So now it is 2 hours later. The bread has risen in a warm, out of the way area. It has doubled in size, and we're getting ready to transfer. The oven has been preheated to 450, and the cast iron Dutch oven has been preheating in the oven for about half an hour. We're going to take that out, put the bread in, and get it back in the oven. It's hot. This is a well-seasoned Dutch oven. So because I only use one towel, I just lift it in the towel, but you can slide your hand underneath the bread if you need to. I just lift it in the towel, lay it on the side, and then roll it into the pan. If it doesn't usually roll in there nice and straight, But you can just give it a jiggle. Put the lid back on. Put it back in the oven for 30 minutes at 450. And now we will wait for the magic. Aha! The timer is done. Get this out of here. Oh, it smells good. Oh, and it looks good. I might need some help. Does that look nice? This is on a cooling rack with the towel that I had it rising in earlier. That's a pretty loaf of bread. Your oven might require another 5 minutes or so to bring it to this color, but not 30 minutes works perfect for my oven. Is that beautiful? Now, I will cover this with several clean towels to retain the moisture and have it cool slowly. I use a bunch. I learned that from my mom. Her bread was delicious, but she did traditional bread in a bread kneader or kneaded by hand. This is so much easier.
So from a prepper's perspective, this bread recipe is extraordinarily flexible. You can do an awful lot of stuff with it. What we just filmed was the regular way that we do it pretty much every other day or so when we do make a loaf of bread. And that's using the water and the milk. But you don't have to use the milk, you can use just water. So if you're in a situation where the power's out, refrigerator's out, whatever, and you don't have milk, hopefully you still got water, so you can use the 1.5 cups of water. The olive oil is also optional. It makes the bread a little bit more creamy, a little bit more smooth when it comes out. But if you skip the olive oil or the vegetable oil, not a big problem. The other things, you don't need to put the sugar in. You can if you want to. We added it just to try it, and it seems to really help the flavor of the bread quite a lot. So we've added the sugar to Nana's recipe here. The other optional things that you can do is you can substitute the water, or the water and the milk combination, with beer.
We haven't tried that yet, so we're going to try to do that so that we can give you a better idea.
We may do that later this week, and if we do, we can let you know how it all turns out. It sounds like it's going to be pretty good. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a whole thing of beer or just half and half beer and water or whatever, but the beer is going to add a very unique flavor to it. So if you like beer, a good beer bread is absolutely wonderful. As far as in the recipe that we just showed, we put in shredded Parmesan cheese. You can use shredded cheddar cheese. You can use shredded Mexican style cheese that you put on tacos and stuff like that, just to give it that little bit of extra texture and flavor, and it really does seem to help quite a bit. You can also flavor it with spices like rosemary. You can sprinkle rosemary in the dough and let it sit and rise together with it.
Or garlic and rosemary.
Yep, garlic. You can also slice green olives and with the pimentos in them, cut them up and have olive bread. Some folks really like it. I'm not a real big fan of green olives, but I think it may be kind of fun. We sure do hope that you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. Bread recipes, there's hundreds of them out there. You got to experiment with them. You got to use them. We haven't really purchased bread from a store in maybe no more than 2 or 3 loaves in the last 5 years. Every other day we make this kind of artisan bread, and it really does turn out great. It toasts up well. It's versatile. You can do an awful lot of cool things with it. We hope you learned something. We enjoy making these videos for you. So stick around. We'll be back on the next video. And remember to be prepared always. This is the Prepared Suburbanite, out for now.
Bye-bye.